You recall that described your immediate family as dysfunctional,
Yes, I did.
and was that a fair description?
It was, absolutely. And I'm quite happy to admit to that now. At the time, I didn't see it as dysfunction, because that's just the normal thing. I lived in that household. We were a very tight group, and I just considered it to be how life was led, or how we lived life. I didn't see it any other as being out of the
You
ordinary.
had nothing to compare it with.
Exactly.
David Bain has become a household name here in New Zealand, and the Bain family killings is one of our most talked about true crime cases. And a lot of people still wonder, who did it? Was it the dad, Robin? Did he kill his wife and his 3 teenage kids before he took his own life? Or was it their oldest son, David, who decided to kill his entire family? Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Kate, and here on my channel I talk about true crime stories. I know I've been gone for a while. I've been MIA for about a month because I've been moving house and I've had a couple of health issues, but I'm good now. I'm back. Please remember to show your support by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the notification bell so that you never miss out on any of my future videos. Thank you so much for being here with me. I know I've lost a few subscribers. Hopefully I can win them back. But yeah, here we go. Make sure to get cozy, grab a snack, and let's dive into another true crime story. Okay, so today's one, it comes with a warning. I'm going to be talking about the Bain family. They were horribly gunned down in their own home, and there were teenage children involved in the killings. This happened here in New Zealand, where I'm from. So please only continue with this video if you are in a good headspace. And with that, let's jump into another true crime story. Okay, so people talk about how quirky and how dysfunctional the Bain family were. Basically, their home was a pigsty and they were considered to be a bit odd. Margaret, the mum, she was really religious, and she was fully committed to New Age concepts like previous lives and channeling. She was also using a keyring as a pendulum to tell her what God wanted her to do, even for such simple things like grocery shopping. Robin Bain, the dad, he was said to not really believe in that stuff that his wife was, believing in, and he was apparently powerless and basically just tolerated her. Apparently, Robin told a friend about the filthy state of his home and that Margaret was away with the fairies. So he thought she was kind of losing her mind. Some people also point out how strange their oldest son was. This is David. David being the sole survivor of the massacre. Apparently, he was weirdly jealous of his sister Laniet's relationships. There has been some talk about incest within the Bain family, but I don't know if it's actually true. So yeah, we'll talk about more of that later. All I know is that David Bain was a bit strange. But does that make him a killer? I don't know. Also, people forget that 3 innocent teenage children were killed in their own home while they lay asleep in their beds. They should have been safe in their own home. Our homes, and especially our bedrooms, are like our sanctuary. This is my bedroom, and I love coming in here and just, chilling out after a long day. I wouldn't ever expect someone to just rock up and shoot me in my own bedroom or home. So I want to take a moment to remember these kids that lost their lives, because this story, it became all about David and less about the victims, in my opinion. They were shot at point blank range by somebody that they most likely knew and trusted. It is so sad. I do have my own opinion on this case, but I'll probably leave it until we get more into the story. All right, now let's go back in time. We're going to go to 1969 when Robin Bain married Margaret Cullen in Dunedin, which is here in New Zealand. The couple had met through the church that they were both attending, and Robin was about 8 years older than Margaret. So after Robin and Margaret got married, they had 4 children. Their oldest son, David, he was born in 1972, followed by Arawa. She was 2 years later. Laniet arrived in 1976, and their youngest child, Stephen, was born in 1980. The Bain family relocated from New Zealand to Papua New Guinea in 1974, and while they were living there, Robin worked as a missionary. So after 14 years in Papua New Guinea, the Bain family decided to return to New Zealand. Apparently there were some issues in the marriage and they just wanted to come home. When they returned to New Zealand, Robin was hired as a principal of the local school. Apparently he was super smart. Margaret, the matriarch of the Bain family, was raised in a religious Presbyterian family, and she was very active in her church community, and she was a youth group leader. However, despite Margaret's dedication to her Christian faith, she had a genuine interest in exploring and learning about all sorts of different religions. Margaret went to Otago University, where she decided that she wanted to pursue anthropology. It's a field that allowed her to delve deeper into the cultures and beliefs of people that were from all around the world. Robin, who also had a keen interest in exploring all sorts of different religions, shared this common interest. So there were times when they, were on the same page. They would often read books together, and one book that really resonated with them was The Prophet. This book was published in 1923 and emphasized the fundamental unity of all religions and advocated for tolerance and understanding. So in their free time, Robin and Margaret, they would just kind of lay in bed and immerse themselves in the thought-provoking words of this book. They appreciated the insights and wisdom that they gained from this book, which challenged them to broaden their perspectives and embrace diversity within the spiritual realm. So, when the Bain family moved from New Zealand to Papua New Guinea, Margaret's exposure to various belief systems expanded even further. Margaret, who had previously shown interest in different cultures during her university years, had the opportunity to visit and engage with the tribes that she had read about. So, moving to Papua New Guinea actually allowed Margaret to fully immerse herself in the local culture, and she embraced their beliefs and their traditional healing practices. That was something she really enjoyed. And when the family eventually returned back to New Zealand in 1988, Margaret's spiritual journey continued to evolve. She fully embraced New Age concepts and she started to believe in past lives. Margaret began analyzing her dreams and interpreting them as messages from a higher power. To support her newfound beliefs, Margaret even utilized the key ring that I talked about before. She used it for everything. She believed that this key ring, when gently held, could actually act as a means of communication with God. So she felt like she had direct contact with God. And Margaret relied on this key ring for everything. Like I said, even grocery shopping. And although Robin somewhat disapproved, he disapproved of his wife's views, with this whole thing, he did tolerate it. Also, after Margaret returned to Dunedin, she tried to recruit some of her friends into like a sort of voodoo cult. Margaret was under the belief that a satanic influence was actually inside her home and her children, and especially her husband. She was so full on with this belief that her husband had like a satanic influence inside him, that if Robin touched like the newspaper before Margaret got to read it, she needed to like clear the air and cleanse it before she would touch it. Also, she would also clear the air of any part of the house that Robin would go into. It was getting to the point where it was just too much for this family. She was terrified that this satanic entity was talking through Robin and was using him to get at her. It sounds like she had something going on. Like, I'm not qualified, but it sounds like she may have had like schizophrenia or something. People back then just thought that she was a bit strange, looked weird. Some called it crazy, but it does sound like there's something medical going on that she probably needed some treatment for. Anyway, moving on. So out of all of the children, David was the closest with his mum. He was basically a mama's boy, like full on mama's boy, and he made it his mission to please her. David also let his mum perform hypnosis on him, allowing her to cleanse him of any satanic influence. I don't know if David actually believed in what his mum was, going on about, but I feel like he may have done it to keep her happy. So the relationship between Margaret and Robin was really, really bad at this stage. They argued so much, and Robin eventually moved out of the family home and into a caravan that was on the property. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust. Robin also started living at the school, like part-time, during the week, but he still came home on the weekends. And despite his living arrangements, Robin was still present in the family home. I mean, that's his house too. These are his kids. And he would occasionally, grab the morning newspaper, carry it inside, sit down at the dining table and read it. And then Margaret would have to cleanse it. So during this period, while Robin was away at work and also living in the caravan, David decided to take it upon himself to be the man of the house. The Bain family home was in disrepair, both inside and out. It was falling apart. It was gross. The outside was neglected and unkempt. Really long grass, while the inside was equally shabby, just so much stuff everywhere. Their property was cluttered with items by Robin and Margaret. They collected stuff, from Papua New Guinea and brought it home, and this city repeatedly, sent them citations telling them they need to clean their property, keep it orderly, but the Bain family apparently lacked the resources necessary to upkeep their home. Not sure how. It's easy to throw, rubbish away, but whatever. By 94, David actually got a job, and this actually becomes quite important later. At this time, David was also at Otago University. David was not the brightest student, but he enjoyed opera and he studied music at university. However, things were not going the best for him at home. He was 22 years old. He was working on a newspaper route, which is seen as a child's job, and living at home with his mum was becoming a bit much because she was obsessed with this religious stuff, and he was living in an unkept, haunted house. David's employment situation had been challenging for him, and he really struggled to find a decent, stable job. But honestly, who cares if you do a paper run? It's honest money. You gotta earn somehow. So who cares? So David had been unemployed for quite a while before he got this paper run. But this job, it was low paying and physically demanding. I know that because I did it when I was 12, and it required him to deliver newspapers really early in the morning. So he's not getting much money and he's putting a lot of effort in. That would suck, but you got to do what you got to do, right? You need the money. And David accepted that he did need this job to help provide for himself and his family. Also, living at home with his mum was quite the struggle for David. His mum's obsession with religion had consumed every single aspect of this family's lives. The house was cluttered with religious paraphernalia, and conversations were often centered around religious topics. So at 22 years old, David was feeling trapped and unfulfilled. Working on a newspaper route that did not pay much and living in an unkempt house with his mum was not the life that he envisioned for himself. He longed for stability and he wanted independence. Then, on June the 20th, 1994, David Bain woke up and he started his day, as usual. He prepared for his newspaper run, and at around 6:45, a neighbour claimed that they saw David outside his home, walking towards the front door. Not the neighbour's home, David's own home. The sighting actually raised suspicions and fueled speculation about what happened at the house later in the investigation. So about 23 minutes after David got home, he rings 111. This is our version of 911. That was at 7:09 a.m. And in a frantic phone call to the police, he informed the dispatcher that they're all dead. The dispatcher immediately sent police to the Bain residence. And just after 7:30 a.m., police officers and paramedics arrived at the Bain home. There they found David. He was in a fetal position. He was crying hysterically. They couldn't get him to talk. He was distraught. So the police go in, and upon entering the home, the officers found the bodies of all 5 members of the Bain family. They found 58-year-old Robin, 50-year-old Margaret, and their 3 children, 19-year-old Arawa, 18-year-old Laniet, and 14-year-old Stephen. Each victim had been fatally shot with a .22 caliber rifle. This weapon was found beside Robin, and the crime scene initially looked like it was a murder-suicide. You know, the weapon's next to Robin. Doesn't look good. This impression was reinforced after investigators discovered that there was a typed note on the family's computer. So it said, "Sorry, you are the only one who deserved to stay." To the detectives, it appeared that Robin had shot and killed his wife, daughters, and youngest son, while his oldest son David was out doing his paper run. And upon questioning David, he provided details regarding his morning. So according to his story, after returning from his morning paper run, he went to the laundry room. However, instead of simply washing his dirty clothes, he bundled all the items that were waiting in the laundry basket into the washing machine. So he just grabbed everything and just chucked it in, which is fine. Like, it's good that he's trying to help, right? David claimed that he did not find the bodies until after he had finished doing his laundry. And after discovering the tragic scene, he called 111 for help.
Help! They're all dead!
What's the matter?
They're all dead! I came home and they're all dead!
Whereabouts are you?
Every street.
Every street.
65 every street. They're all dead.
Who's all dead?
My family, they're all dead! Hurry up!
It's okay. Every street. It runs off Somerville Street?
Yes.
What number are you calling from?
454.
454
2527.
2527. And your last name?
Bain.
Bain. Okay. We're on our way. Okay, Mr. Bain? Yeah, we'll be there very shortly.
Now I'm going to play a piece of audio that was edited out of the original 111 call. It sounds like he's saying something, but is he? Really listen. Some people think he's saying, "I shot the prick." But what I'm hearing is, "I killed the prick." What do you guys think? Let me know. So as crime scene investigators searched the Bain residence, they found a bloody clothing item in the laundry room. The laundry room was actually stained with blood, and there were bloody fingerprints visible on the washing machine and the soap box. Investigators also discovered a palm print made in blood, which they had preserved as potential evidence. So inside the laundry room One of the bloodiest items that they found was a sweater, and apparently this was David's. However, David said that he also loaned his sweater to his dad and sometimes his sisters. There was a significant amount of blood that was on it, leading the investigators to believe that whoever shot and killed the Bain family had been wearing that sweater at the time of the incident. So the investigators also examined the rifle, which belonged to David Bain. Upon closer examination, they found prints that were made in blood on the gun, which had also been preserved for comparison. And in the immediate vicinity of the bodies, the investigators observed what seemed to be a trail of bloody footprints. And these footprints were measured and they were photographed for evidence. The bloody palm print that was discovered in the laundry room was a match to David Bain. So when questioned, David did admit that he did laundry when he got home from his paper run. And to the detectives, it was plausible that David could have, just picked up the bloody clothing without noticing and then chucked them in the wash. I don't know. It's plausible, but is it what happened? There were also specks of blood found on Robin's hands. Tiny. I'll put a picture up. However, the amount that was found was it's not enough to... It's tiny. You'd think that person who shot everyone would be covered in blood. From what I've read, Robin and David, they didn't have a really good relationship, and Robin actually favoured his daughter, Laniet. So why would Robin type up a note saying that David was basically the only one who deserved to live? Also, I read that Robin wasn't the best with technology, so why would he choose to type a note? Wouldn't an old school fellow like Robin write the note? This is the 90s. Unless, of course, it wasn't Robin who did this, and instead it was David, and he was trying to frame his dad. David hasn't spoken very nicely about his father after all this or before, so I can see it being possible that David killed his family and framed his dad. Additionally, the bloody fingerprints on the rifle were found to be a match for David. So as the investigators continued their search in the Bain family home, they focused their attention on the bedroom of 14-year-old Stephen, where he was killed. There were signs of a struggle, and Stephen's room was super messy, as well as the whole house. And Stephen, he had fought for his life. But doesn't this seem a bit off to you? Really think on it. Considering his dad, Robin, was an older man, he was small, he was frail. If Robin had been the shooter, one would expect that Stephen, being so young, would overpower him. Stephen had been strangled with, it was either a pillowcase or a t-shirt, I'm not sure. And he was almost scalped before he was shot. Also, inside Stephen's bedroom, investigators found a lens from a pair of glasses, and the glasses were found in David's bedroom on a chair, which raised suspicions. Looks like David may have been the attacker, right? And the glasses broke in the scuffle. And this is when detectives began to question whether David was actually the person who killed his family. Also, inside Stephen's bedroom, investigators discovered a pair of white gloves. Now, these gloves were soaked with blood, and they were underneath his bed. I will put a picture up. The investigators believed that the gloves were worn by the killer. They believe that the shooter removed the gloves in order to fix the jammed rifle. Apparently this rifle jammed quite often, and then the gloves basically got lost underneath the bed during the scuffle. These gloves were reportedly taken from a drawer that was in David's bedroom. This discovery raised several questions among the investigators. They wondered why Robin would have decided to use David's gloves instead of his own. during the shooting, if indeed Robin was the shooter. Additionally, if Robin had planned to take his own life after committing the killings, why were gloves needed at all? There would have been no reason for him to cover up his fingerprints, right? Why would he try and hide it? So, during the autopsies, the medical examiner determined that Robin had a full bladder. Really think on this, guys. This discovery confused the detectives because it seemed to contradict their understanding of the events surrounding the case. Why would Robin wake up, ignore the urge to pee, and then go on a shooting spree, killing members of his family before taking his own life? Because when you wake up, you go pee, and then you go do your day. Detectives believed that it would have been impossible for Robin to resist the urge to wee as he woke up. The human body has a built-in mechanism that signals the need to relieve itself upon waking. Therefore, they found it really difficult to comprehend how Robin could carry out such a violent act with a full bladder. Now, think how you feel when you've got a full bladder. Furthermore, the detectives wondered how Robin could engage in a struggle with his youngest son, write a goodbye note on the computer, and finally shoot himself, all while carrying a full bladder. It seems like an improbable scenario, raising questions about what happened during the tragic events. So the detectives believed that Robin woke up in his caravan, and from there he went into the house and went to the lounge room where he frequently prayed. It was in this room where they say Robin encountered the killer and he was shot and killed. When the detectives questioned David, he claimed that when he went into Laniet's room after he got back from his paper run and did his laundry and whatnot, he found her and that he heard gurgling noises coming from her. Now that... However, the medical examiner determined that Laniet would have died instantly after the second or third shot to her head, which means in order for David Bain to have heard his sister gurgling, he would have had to have been present when she took her final breaths, meaning that he was likely to be the killer or be with the killer. Think on it. After the discovery of his family's dead bodies, David called 111. So 4 days later, he was charged with 5 counts of murder. 2 weeks after the murders, the Bain family home was actually burned down at the request of relatives. Then, in May of 1995, David Bain went on trial at the Dunedin High Court. The prosecution theory is that David Bain woke up, he got dressed, and then went to his wardrobe to get a .22 rifle. And then he attached the silencer and loaded the magazine. Then they say that he put on a pair of white gloves and wore his mum's glasses because his own glasses were being repaired. Then he went to Laniet's bedroom where he shot her twice in the head as she lay sleeping. Then he went to his mother's room and he shot his mum in her forehead. In the room that's just off his mum's room, he found Stephen, his 14-year-old brother. He was asleep, and they say that he put the rifle to his brother's head, but Stephen woke up and he pushed it away. But as he pushed it away, the gun went off and it went through Stephen's hand. There is a struggle that happens and Stephen fights for his life. The prosecution say that David twisted Stephen's t-shirt and strangled him as he lay on the floor gasping. David finished him off with a bullet to the head. So in some articles they say a pillowcase and in others it's a t-shirt. I'm not entirely sure what it was. All I know is that this poor boy fought for his life and was killed in a horrific way. He knew who killed him when he died. Okay, so during the struggle, David's glasses fell off. He turns on the light and he picks them up. And he left the lens behind. And then he put them on the chair in his bedroom. This is what the prosecution is saying. Then he goes downstairs where his sister Arawa heard the shots. They say that she was praying and was kneeling as David entered the room and shot her. But the thing was, apparently he missed on the first shot because he couldn't see very well without the glasses. So he shoots again, and this time he was successful. Arawa was shot in her forehead. Then he goes back upstairs where he hears Laniet gurgling, and he shoots her again in the top of her head. Then they say that David Bain throws his bloody clothing into the washing machine and turns it on. Sounds highly possible, right? David's dad, Robin, he was still asleep at this point in the caravan. And David put on a fresh set of clothes, and he goes out with his dog Casey to do the Otago Daily Times paper run. He returns home, he goes into the lounge, and he turns on the computer. He types in the suicide message, framing his dad. Like I said, this note, it said, now remember, Robin is really smart, and listen to this. Sorry, you are the only one who deserved to stay. Someone educated wouldn't say that, right? David then hides behind the curtain with a rifle and waits for his dad to come in to pray. Apparently, it was a daily routine of Robin's to pray in the morning. Robin enters the room and kneels on the other side of the curtain. This is when the prosecution say that David shot his dad in the head and then left the rifle beside his dad's body. Then he calls 111. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the defense's theory. So if David is not responsible, then there seems to be only one other possibility. And during the early stages of the investigation, it was believed that Robin Bain may have killed his family before he took his own life. So some people argue that there is strong evidence to support this theory. I don't see it, and I've looked at all the evidence that's available. It said that Laniet had returned home that weekend. She was going to confront her parents about her dad apparently essaying her. Robin could have faced serious criminal charges if it turned out that he had been essaying his daughter, and some people think that maybe Robin thought that Laniet was going to report him to the police and that this was enough motive to kill his entire family. It was also known that Robin's marriage to Margaret was pretty much over. He spent the week living at the school and the weekends in his rundown trailer in the backyard of the family home. Additionally, the test to check for gunpowder residue, which could show if someone had recently fired a gun, wasn't performed on Robin until 5 hours after the police arrived. This delay may have been the reason that it was inconclusive, because the residue can actually disappear within a few hours after a shooting. Also, the tests were carried out at the morgue after the body had been moved without protecting his hands, instead of being done at the scene. They kind of dropped the ball on that one. So both the prosecution and defense refrained from presenting a motive during the trial. Also, there was a guy called Dean Cottle. He was a witness for the defense. He was expected to testify that David's sister Laniet was going to expose her dad about this essay. However, Dean Cottle actually failed to show up during the trial, which left the defense without the necessary evidence to support this claim. So Dean Cottle did write a statement and provided it for the court, but the judge at the time determined that he was an unreliable witness and ruled against the admission of this testimony. So this decision had a significant impact on the outcome of the trial because it prevented the jurors from considering this possible motive as to why Robin may have wanted to kill his family and himself. So during the trial, the Crown alleged that David had marks on his face that looks like he could have got them during a scuffle with his brother. When questioned by the detectives, David failed to explain these injuries. Additionally, when the detectives asked David to change out of his clothing after his arrest at the police station and put on prison-issued attire, they discovered that he had scratches on his chest. The Crown informed the jury that Robin, who the defense claimed shot and killed his his family, had no injuries on his body except for a gunshot wound to his head. And because Stephen fought back so fiercely, the Crown said that they would expect Robin, if he was the killer, to be covered in wounds because he's also old and frail. Also at the crime scene, there were bloody footprints that appeared to be made by someone who was wearing socks. Thing was, Robin was wearing shoes. He wasn't in socks when he was found. The defense claimed that Robin was walking through the house with blood-soaked socks, but they say that he later changed his footwear before taking his own life. All while still needing to pee, remember? Yeah, whatever. These bloody prints were measured and they were found to be between 280 and 290 millimeters long. During the trial, the defense conducted an experiment involving people wearing socks and then saturating them with pig's blood. So these individuals were instructed to step firmly on carpet, leaving behind a print. However, the print that they made was larger than the size of their foot. Of course, the defense argued that this discrepancy in the print size proved that Robin was the shooter. No, it doesn't. They reasoned that Robin's actual shoe size was 227 millimeters, but the prints of the shooter were estimated to be between 280 and 290 millimeters. So according to the defense, this indicated that Robin must have left the footprints found at the crime scene. I feel like they're clutching onto straws, eh? What do you think? Let me know. On the other hand, the Crown argued that the defense's experiment was flawed and unreliable. Yeah. They argued that it was not possible to accurately determine the size and shape of the print left behind by the individuals wearing the socks that were soaked in pig's blood. Also, at David's trial, the Crown alleged that a .22 caliber rifle was too big for Robin to be able to use to take his own life. However, the defense presented a demonstration that showed how a person could actually use this gun to take their own life by putting the butt on the ground or on a chair and holding the barrel against their head while pulling the trigger with the other hand. Although the position appeared to be really unnatural and uncomfortable, it was possible. So they say that Robin chose an unusual way to take his life, basically by placing the rifle muzzle against his left temple on a strange angle. It doesn't look right. Thing is, some of his blood was on the curtains that were quite a far distance from where he was found, and the spare 10-shot magazine just happened to land on its narrowest edge right by his right hand. Make it make sense, please. Imprints were observed on Robin's hand, which the defense claimed could have been made by the magazine. I have seen this picture and I don't think so. This magazine had dimples and the defense argued that these indentations were consistent with Robin's hand gripping or shoving it into the weapon. Like I said, I've seen these pictures of Robin's hand when they, yeah. You guys tell me what you think. One other thing that I find quite interesting, if Robin did commit this crime, then why wasn't a single fingerprint belonging to him found on the murder weapon? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Probably because he did not kill his family. Someone else did. There's no coming back from this, though. His name has already been dragged through the mud. But I honestly do not think that Robin Bain killed his family. And I'm saying it, I don't give a damn what other Kiwis say. So during the trial, the Crown raised several questions about Robin's typed note. Firstly, they questioned why an educated man, an English major, and a school principal had written such a poorly constructed note. The prosecution believed that this inconsistency in Robin's writing skills was indicative of someone else doing it. Secondly, the Crown highlighted that it would have been time-consuming for Robin to turn on the computer and wait for it to boot up before he could type the note. It's the 90s. Computers took ages to power on. Seriously, I remember. The Crown asked why he decided to wait until that time to write a suicide note when he could have easily just got out a piece of paper and written it down by hand. Remember, he still needs to pee. That's right. The Crown argued that David, not Robin, wrote the note. They believed that David would not be able to stage a handwritten note because his handwriting wouldn't have matched his dad's. So he used the computer instead. Yeah. Also, they said there was no proof that if Robin was the killer, that he would spare David out of all his kids. Because David and his dad, they didn't get along, which was confirmed by several witnesses. So the jury, they go away. They've heard all the evidence and they bugger off for deliberations. They found David Bain guilty on 5 counts of murder. David then received a life sentence with a 16-year non-parole period, and off to jail he went. David later described how he felt when he was first put into jail, and he got given cold fish and chips, and apparently he cried all night. David said that he cried himself to sleep and he had a really restless first night in prison. He also shared that he desperately tried to attend his family's funerals, but he wasn't allowed to go. And yep, I'm not sure how I feel on that. David expressed the ongoing pain of being denied the chance to say goodbye to his family. 1 year after David was found guilty of killing his family, his story caught the attention of a guy called Joe Karam. A lot of Kiwis probably know this guy. Joe was a rugby player and he was quite popular in his community. So Joe, he read a news article about a university student who was raising money for David's defense by selling jam. And Joe was intrigued by what he was reading. This is when he decided that he wanted to investigate this case a bit further, and he, read about it, and he wanted to help David Bain. He felt like he was innocent, so he embarked on a lengthy campaign to overturn David's conviction. This guy, Joe, dedicated countless hours to researching and gathering evidence. He was determined to prove that David Bain was innocent, and during David's incarceration, Joe would actually go and visit him quite a lot. In addition to visiting David, he also wrote 4 books about this case. Joe was getting supporters for David's case and encouraged people to question the validity of his conviction. Joe worked hours and hours and hours. He worked tirelessly on David's case, dedicating his full-time efforts to David's case. He poured his heart and soul into it. Honestly, he put a lot of effort into gathering information, utilizing his contacts and his resources to uncover any leads or evidence that may support David's defense. Now, are we listening to this? This guy has money. He's got connections. Remember that. Joe was super wealthy and pretty much a celebrity here in New Zealand. He owned over 20 investment properties, but he decided that he was going to sacrifice his financial stability to fund David's legal defense. Yeah. He invested a significant amount of his own money in hiring the best legal team to work on David's case. So throughout his involvement in David's case, Joe, he spent a whopping $4 million. I know. That's an insane amount of money to spend on someone that you barely know, right? But Joe, he believed that David was innocent. He had the money, so he wanted to help. Then, after David's trial concluded in 1995, the first appeal application was submitted to the New Zealand Court of Appeal. This appeal focused on a key aspect that Joe believed had been overlooked by the judge during the original trial. So the appeal sought to highlight the decision made by the judge to refuse to admit the testimony of Dean Cottle way back then. And they feel like he should have been able to, use his statement in court. However, the Court of Appeals, they declined to hear the appeal because the Crown's case appeared very strong and the defence theory was not apparently possible at the time. Then, 3 years after David was convicted for the killings in 2000, he filed a petition with the Governor-General of New Zealand seeking a pardon. This request was subsequently forwarded to the Minister of Justice for review. However, David did not receive a pardon. But despite being rejected, the Judge Minister determined that there were significant errors that were made in the investigation, and these errors could have led to mistakes in the Crown's case against David Bain. The police did drop the ball a couple of times. So 6 years later, the Privy Council heard David's appeal against the Court of Appeal's verdict, and the hearing happened a year later, in May of 2007, when the Privy Council quashed David's conviction for the 5 killings of his family members and recommended a retrial. The Privy Council suppressed David's conviction, and they were fully for a retrial based on the evidence presented, and following the decision by the Privy Council, the Solicitor General of New Zealand confirmed that yes, there would be a retrial. So according to the Privy Council, certain aspects of David Bain's trial actually troubled them. One of the issues that they had was that the jury was not made aware that Robin was apparently, as they put it, seriously disturbed. And apparently he had hit a student at school when he was the principal. I'm not sure if this is true or not. Additionally, it was revealed that Robin had previously published sadistic stories in the school's newspaper. It apparently included a story that involved killing an entire family. I don't know if that's true either. I haven't seen proof of these allegations, so I do not know if it's true. People can just say anything and then claim it's fact. Apparently, another point of concern during the trial was the testimony of an optometrist regarding the ownership of the glasses that were found in David's room. Remember the lens in Stephen's room. Initially, the optometrist said that yes, they did belong to David, but apparently they didn't belong to David, and the optometrist said in the second trial that no, they're actually his mum's. So, the optometrist, not really somebody that they, he or she wasn't a credible witness. See, I don't know, what's true. I guess if they were his mum's glasses, he could have been borrowing them. I mean, if they had similar prescription lenses, it is possible, but also they could have been David's glasses, I guess. I do not know for sure. So according to the Privy Council, the conflicting evidence presented by the optometrist may have negatively impacted David's credibility in the eyes of the jury. I don't think that would be the only reason why David would be found guilty, just the glasses. Furthermore, the Privy Council said during the trial that the jury had believed that the prints made in blood on the rifle was human blood, and in the handprints. However, a test conducted on the blood revealed that the sample did not test positive for human blood. Apparently it was animal blood. They think it was from when David shot a possum or a rabbit in the months before his family was killed. So David Bain's retrial kicked off on March 6, 2009, with the jury being sworn in, and David pleaded not guilty to killing his entire family. Both the prosecution and defence, they presented their opening statements to the court, and the Crown began by informing the jury that all of the evidence that's presented would be circumstantial, but strong, still circumstantial. And they said that all the available evidence pointed towards David as the perpetrator of the killings. So the Crown presented evidence in the form of a conversation that David had had with a friend 6 days before his family were killed. During this conversation, David said that he had a gut feeling that something really horrible was about to happen. Then David's defence team presented their theory that Robin Bain was responsible for the killings and then took his own life. The reason behind his actions was said to be the impending revelation of his essay towards his daughter, Laniet. So according to the defense, Robin was deeply depressed and knew that his life would be ruined if the truth about their relationship had come out. I don't know if it's a relationship. Some people say it was incest. Some people say it was SA. I don't know. One of the key pieces of evidence allegedly destroyed by police was Laniet's diary. Why would police destroy that? I say allegedly. The diary was believed to have contained entries that shed light on the essay that had taken place between her and her dad. The defense said that the diary was lost or it was destroyed, but all I'm hearing is there's a diary. I don't know if this diary exists, but yeah. I don't even know. I don't know. So during the trial, the defense called several witnesses who claimed to know about the essay. One witness was a guy called Sean Clark. He was a student at Otago University, and I don't know if he was a friend, but he knew David and Laniet, so he knew both of them. Remember, he is acquainted with both Laniet and David. He testified that 1 month before the killings, Laniet was quite upset, and she told him that she could no longer tolerate what her dad was doing to her. According to Sean, Laniet was living in her dad's caravan and expressed a desire to move back into the family home, away from her dad. Not sure if she would want to move back into the family home or would want to go live somewhere else, maybe go flatting, but I don't know. Another witness for the defense, Linda Miller, told the court in 1993 and in 1994 that she was working at a Dunedin massage parlor and became acquainted with Laniet. I heard that she was kind of a call girl or something like that. I'm pretty sure that I read that she was a sex worker. Anyway, Linda said that Laniet confided in her and told her that her dad was essaying her. Furthermore, another witness, a Dunedin shop owner, testified that in early 1994, Laniet came into his shop and she was visibly upset. And he asked her, "Are you okay?" And Laniet told him, like, "No, I'm not okay. I'm having trouble at home." And she said that she was doing drugs to, ease the pain. And during the conversation, she said that her dad was essaying her. See, I don't know if that's true because you don't just tell shop owners random shit, right? Like that. Do you guys think that the stuff's made up? I mean, like Joe Karam had a lot of money. He could have paid people to provide false statements. Just a theory of mine. Don't come for me. It's just a theory. I'm allowed to have my opinion. Also, Stephen Cousins, Laniet's former employer, said Laniet told him about the essay, and he told the court he tried to get Laniet to go to the police. I guess some of these statements could be true. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Robin Bain essayed his daughter? I don't know. My gut feeling is that maybe these statements are made up. Maybe Joe may have, used some of his money to, because he was pretty determined to get David Bain out of jail. Anyway, if Robin was doing these horrible things to Laniet, just saying, if he was, then that is freaking disgusting. And I feel so sad for her, and I really hope he wasn't. But why didn't they come forward back in the first trial? Why is it only coming up now? Were they coerced? Maybe. Like I said, Joe Karam, he had a lot of money. He may have paid people. He paid a lot of money for his legal team. Who's to say he didn't pay some people to make some false statements? It's just a theory. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not saying that he paid people, though. I'm saying that he may have. Okay. So David Bain's retrial lasted approximately 3 months, and it was a media circus. During this time, the Crown presented over 130 witnesses, while the defense called 54 witnesses. Then the trial wrapped up on May the 27th, 2009, and the jury went away to deliberate for several hours. So, my opinion. I'm full of opinions. Humans aren't really great at figuring out reasonable doubt when there are a bunch of factors involved. This jury had a lot of circumstantial evidence that was thrown at them, and the chances of the jury going away and coming back with a definite guilty or not guilty verdict gets way more unlikely with each piece of information, circumstantial evidence, or witness statements that they hear. So it doesn't really matter if it's technically possible for those things to happen. What really matters is the odds of each thing happening together. You following me? And sometimes jurors can kind of miss the importance of things like David having injuries on his body that he could not explain, or losing a glasses lens in his brother's bedroom, if in fact they were his glasses, which I think they were, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the optometrist. And also, why would the lens be in Stephen's room and the rest of the glasses be in David's room? It just does not make sense. There is also the fact that Robin didn't have injuries on his body, apart from the gunshot wound to his head and that tiny indentation that was on his finger. Could look like a paper cut. I'll put it up again. Plus, from looking at the crime scene, Robin was clean. I'm going to put up a picture. Like, he didn't have his family's blood on him, which you would expect from someone who went on a murderous rampage. You would, right? I mean, there was blood all over the gloves and the sweater that was found. So why wasn't Robin covered in blood? Yes, he could have had a shower after killing his family. Listen to this, guys. But my argument there is this guy, he had a full bladder, remember? I know I keep going on about it. If he had a shower, you would expect him to go pee in the shower, right? Yeah? Hearing water run makes me want to pee if I'm busting already. So, he could have been in the shower. If you have a full bladder when you wake up, which a lot of us do, one of the first things we do is go to the toilet. I do that. First thing I do is actually put it on the jug. Then I go to the toilet, then I make a coffee. Really think on this one, guys. You wake up, you need a pee. You aren't going to go and kill your entire family, have a scuffle with your 14-year-old son, turn on a PC that takes freaking ages to fire up, clean yourself up, etc., then kill yourself. No, you go pee. But I can't say 100% if I think that he essayed his daughter. I don't know on that one. That one, I'm like, I don't know. From the argument I just gave, if I was on this case, I probably wouldn't be accusing him of the killings. It just doesn't add up, right? What does add up is there is quite a bit of evidence pointing at David. Oh, and the fact that the family computer was turned on just as David got home from his paper run. Make that make sense. So, David's legal team was saying that Robin typed this note on the family computer. I know, I'm being repetitive. Just go with me, okay? Just go with me. But instead of explaining his actions in this note, he basically lets David off the hook by saying, sorry, you are the only one who deserved to stay. Remember, this guy's educated. Educated people don't talk like that. It just does not add up. Why would Robin type a note instead of writing it? Think on it. This was the 90s, and he was an older gentleman. He's 58. Writing it would be way faster and way easier. Plus, stuff waiting for your computer to boot up when you need to go pee. Back then, it took so long for your computer to boot up, and why would he let David live? He didn't even really like David. This is what I'm hearing. Laniet was his favourite. So anyway, the jury, they come back. This is second trial, they come back. They had reached a verdict, and David Bain was found not guilty. Basically, he was acquitted. So there are a couple of concerning things about this particular jury that we should all take note of. There were two jurors in particular that really bothered me. They were a man and a woman. These two actually congratulated David Bain after the verdict and went to his party. That's right. David Bain had a celebration party and they went. These two also didn't seem to pay much attention during the actual trial, and instead of focusing on the evidence and closing arguments, they were seen giggling and passing notes to each other. What's going on? Also, one of the jurors seemed to be having a bit of trouble understanding the evidence. So, yep, it could have been a bit of a mix-up there. So following his acquittal, David embarked on a 3-month European holiday, and this was paid for by his supporters. However, 10 months after his release, David found himself in quite the pickle. He couldn't find a job. The lack of financial resources became particularly evident as he struggled to make ends meet. And in 2010, David submitted a claim for compensation for wrongful imprisonment. His case fell outside the Cabinet's compensation rules. However, David was entitled to compensation if he could establish his innocence on the balance of probabilities. So, given the case's high-profile nature, the Minister of Justice decided to appoint an overseas judge. And this was a retired judge called Ian Binney, and he was going to look over David's application. So after conducting a year-long investigation, Justice Binney issued his conclusion in September of 2012, and he determined that the Dunedin police had committed numerous errors that directly led to David's wrongful conviction. So Justice Binney declared that David Bain was innocent and that he should get some sort of compensation for, being put in prison for all that time and whatnot. During Binney's inquiry, he had the opportunity to actually meet David Bain, and he conducted a thorough interview. He characterized David as a credible witness who provided compelling testimony during his examination. However, the government commissioned a second report from a retired Australian judge. This was Ian Cullen. So this judge was instructed not to read Binney's report, and he chose not to talk to David Bain while he conducted his investigation. So on August the 2nd, 2016, he announced that he found David was not innocent on the balance of probabilities. On the basis of the final Cullen report, the Crown rejected David's compensation application. However, it offered an ex gratia payment of $925,000 to settle this matter and bring closure to all parties. So apparently David reluctantly accepted that offer. That's a lot of money. That's nearly $1 million. After all of this, David changes his name and he gets married and he has 2 kids. They moved to Australia for a bit there, but they're apparently currently living here in New Zealand. I'm not going to say where they are, but I'm sure you can Google it if you really wanted to. It doesn't really matter though, does it? Okay, so before I go, I've got a message for my fellow New Zealanders who might want to confront David Bain. Don't do it. Just remember, he has kids now. They are about 6 and 10 years old, so they're quite young. So maybe, leave them alone for the kids' sake. The kids are innocent, and we'll find out about all of this in due course. They're getting older, they'll find out. So maybe just leave David alone. They don't need us bothering them. I know some media people have rocked up to his house, and I just feel like you don't need to do that. I only say this because he has kids. I wouldn't give a shit if he didn't have kids, but he has kids, so we leave him alone. So what do you guys think of this case? Do you think David Bain killed his family, or do you think Robin killed his family then killed himself? I know I have my opinions, and I'm pretty sure I've made them pretty clear. I personally think that David Bain is guilty, and I think our country paid a killer almost $1 million. So many people here in New Zealand are stuck between Robin and David. There was a lot of evidence towards David and a lot of evidence that was against Robin. He had a full bladder. I mean, come on, he would have peed, right? All that aside, it's important to remember that regardless of who was responsible, 5 people lost their lives in their own home. 3 of these victims were children who had their whole lives ahead of them. Arawa, she was passionate about teaching and guiding the next generation. Laniet, although she had her issues, she was looking for a fresh start. She wanted to heal. Stephen, just old enough to be home alone, tragically encountered a trusted adult wielding a gun instead of waking up and going to school. The real sadness lies in the fact that these young people never got the chance to fulfill their dreams and now rest in a cemetery alongside their parents. And this brings us to the end of today's story. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and please don't forget to hit the like button, turn on the notification button, and subscribe to my channel for more of my videos. If you unsubscribed and you're watching this, please come back. Oh my god. Also, if you're listening via my podcast and would like to see the video, you can find me on YouTube. My name on YouTube is Kate Sharon True Crime. What a story, right? Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me. And I know another YouTuber says this, but I almost said it. I'm going to say it. Don't do crime. Who says that? Which YouTuber says that? Don't do crime. It's a good saying, right? Anyway, don't do crime. And yeah, I'm out. Have a great day, guys. Bye.